So good morning, everybody, on the gaming kitchen. This episode is going to focus on. This is the last Battlefront video that will be made on Battlefront 2. So I'm going to do it in the same vein that I did for, um, pretty much that I did for Battlefront some 3 years ago. We're going to look at where it came from, where it's going, the status of this game as a whole. Battlefront 2, unlike its predecessor, like its predecessor, has to be looked at in three phases: the release, the problem, and the resolution. So, this is a going away goodbye video for the impressive salvage of what was a train wreck, or a potential train wreck of a game done by a company that honestly dropped the ball for the most part in regards to this earlier on. And then we're looking at the revitalization of this game and where it is after the last patch that touched down with Scarif and a couple of skins that were shown to have been released. So the first thing I have to look at is the positives in regards to Battlefront 2. The positives is the fact that this company walked away with a very valuable lesson learned in regards to how to treat its customers, how to listen to the response of its customers, and then how to approach its fan base in regards to its responses, and how the importance of a fan base can prove to be either detrimental to your growth in your product, or it can also prove to cripple your product. So Battlefront 2, to bring out a dead horse and to beat it again, Battlefront 2 started out on the wrong foot, and Battlefront left a bad taste in the mouth of gamers everywhere by isolating its gamer community with a $50 price package that was behind a paywall in order to unlock characters that A, should have been in the game before, B, should have never been behind a paywall, and C, release content that should have been in the game to begin with. So then we move from Battlefront to now Battlefront 2, to where Battlefront 2 was supposed to bring everything in which people clamored for and complained about in regards to Battlefront, to make it a all-around authentic Star Wars experience. And initially on, it looked like a great idea. You had space battles, you had more emphasis to flight controls and things such as that, and the possibilities were endless. I remember saying in the video that I made about Battlefront that although I was disappointed that the content stopped for Battlefront, the possibilities are endless for Battlefront 2, because now DICE was aware of the mistakes that they made, the errors that they made, the greediness that was exposed for via EA, and how they held creativity hostage in regards to that. So when coming into Battlefront 2, there was no excuses. You had a year to 2 years worth of experience in knowing what the fan base wanted. Appeasing the Star Wars fans is not very difficult to do. And for some reason, Battlefront 2 started out as a so-so experience for gamers and consumers alike. So where did they go wrong? Well, Battlefront 2 went wrong in a sense of duping the fans over in believing that okay, we're not going to give you DLC that needs to be paid for, but we're going to make you work hard for it. You're going to have a sense of pride and accomplishment in regards to unlocking Luke Skywalker, or unlocking Princess Leia, and all those things that came with it. And then that's what began the backlash of this. So on the plus side, you started out with Darth Maul, Luke, Leia, Han, Yoda, and then afterwards you've now got a multiple array of what is, I would say, 80% of a complete game. And the Reddit forums played a part in that, in showing their disinterest into DICE, and in regards to not just DICE, but their handling of the situation, which bled into, depending upon what side you wish to fall on, a lot of obscurity, a lot of opaqueness in regards to their operations and how they release characters. So, what did Battlefront 2 do right when this is all said and done? Well, as I mentioned before, they expressed a good care of listening to the community to a certain extent. And what they also did was allow the community to voice their opinions and their ideas onto a game when they really didn't have to. You'll find that a lot of communities and game companies that work hand in hand in allowing the community to express their ideas, express what makes the game playable, express what makes the game good and have longevity, tend to do better in the grand scheme of things. And that is something in which moving forward EA needs to work on, and something that DICE needs to work on. That was one of the positives that came out of this. Unfortunately, it had to take months without end for them to learn that. The negative thing about Battlefront 2, in which we could look at, is that it suffered greatly from a development company that has their hands in too many cookie jars at the same time. They dealt with Battlefield 5 at this time. They had to deal with Battlefield 1 at the time, because they were working with World War I games and World War II games. So EA was pulling a lot of the people from DICE that was working on Battlefront 2 to go over there and make that. And this is something that happens when you deal with EA. They had an opportunity to take a game that had a single player game, a single player mode, that only had one piece of DLC. I mean, to be quite honest with you, they could have worked with the Lucasfilm Story Group to add another piece of DLC for the Rise of Skywalker. You know, you have a part where, and spoiler warnings for anybody who haven't seen the movie yet. Why, I have no idea. But nevertheless, if you haven't seen it, then fine. But there's a part in that movie where Poe thinks everything is lost, and Lando comes back with millions of an armada. Like, you could have easily played into that. You could have easily done it. You could have gave this game a little bit more life than what it needed to be. It goes back to EA being EA. And when you deal with EA and you start dealing with EA and their greed and their ability to want to make money over creating a trustful base with their players and their customers, you're going to run into these types of issues. You need to look no further than the sports titles. Look at Madden. Look at what happens when you erase competition and you just have one market that has the ability to take an IP and just run it into the ground with greed. When EA makes games, when Electronic Arts makes games, they make games with the intentions to make money off the games. Your great gaming companies, they take the opportunity to make games for playability. And the money aspect takes care of itself when you're dealing with that. You don't have to worry about where the next dollar is going to come from, because the player base is going to always be there to support your product. If you make a good product, you're going to have good support. And that's where they messed up with this game. So, flash forward from all that. Now you have extra characters. They added the Clone Wars DLC, which was the most expansive content that was placed in this game. And they didn't add Ahsoka. They didn't add Asajj Ventress. They didn't add Padme. A lot of missed opportunities, depending upon your point of view. If you walked into this game and you purchased it, I would say February of this year, you would be happy. You'd be satisfied without knowing where this game came from to this point. Now, if you're the type of person who went out and you purchased Battlefront 2, and you're looking at this, you're saying to yourself, okay, this is great, but like, Okay, what happened to Starfighter Assault? Okay, you have Yoda, you have Tali Lintra that came from the Last Jedi DLC. You have Poe Dameron that had an upgrade from the Last Jedi DLC. You have the three types of Millennium Falcons that are here: Darth Maul, Slave One, Darth Vader, Kylo Ren. Where's Anakin Skywalker? Where's Obi-Wan Kenobi? You know, I would have rather added Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin before adding Yoda. Which, by the way, this isn't even the right model of ship that Yoda used in Clone Wars. Okay. The one thing about the legacy of Battlefront 2, when coming from this, leaving this behind, is that there was a lot of missed opportunities. There's a boatload of missed opportunities, and near the end, it could have been better. It could have been done better. But once you take a look at this, and you look at the planets that they've done right and correct, they did a lot with very little time and opportunity in between. So one of the new updates in which they added was Geonosis, Naboo, Kessel, Crate, Takodana, Starkiller Base, Camino, Yavin 4. Of course, they don't have Scarif in here. They have Scarif in arcade mode. This is, I really, when I approached this game, my personal take on it, like, I wanted to appreciate what DICE did so much, but I feel like every time they took 2 steps forward, they took 20 back. And moving forward, if they ever get a chance to make a game again, which they probably won't, they should stop and look at the flaws that they've had. Like, this game should have been a fully immersed Star Wars game when it first came out. Like, all these characters that you see in this game should have already been there. Like, where's Orson Krennic? Where's Jen Erso? You have Rogue One content in here. You don't have any Rogue One stuff. You have, the Death Troopers that were here from the get-go. Like, you just started getting new weapons and stuff that was easy to probably bring over from Battlefront. This game should have been Battlefront plus Battlefront 2 plus extra DLC. Where's the Rebels DLC? Where's Sabine Wren? Where's Ezra Bridger? Where's Captain Rex from Clone Wars? Where's Ahsoka? Where's Padme? Where's all this stuff? This is what happens when EA takes over an IP. And, for anybody who is an EA apologist and anybody who stands up there and tries to apologize for EA and their companies and subsidiaries underneath of them, like, need to look no further than what happened with Battlefront. Like, the community saved Battlefront. The public outcry saved Battlefront. EA didn't. EA just basically draws enough money from whatever they can make, and then they just drop it. There was problems within the community developers and stuff like that. Everybody, made the game that they wanted to make. Like Capital Supremacy, for example. Like for the prequel era and the sequel era, you have capital ships in which you can take over. Like, why didn't they add capital ships for the original trilogy? The one trilogy that everybody would love to take over and board a Death Star or board the Tantive V4 or maybe a Republic or a Rebel bulk cruiser or something along those lines, or a Mon Calamari ship. Why wasn't it put in there? If I'm thinking about those things, you should probably listen to the community and implement those things. It's a lot of missed opportunities. But at the end of the day, it's a good product. It's a good game. But it took 3 years for them to make a game that should have been good from right out the start to be where it's at now. I think that's going to be the lasting legacy of Battlefront 2. A game that basically held on by the skin of its teeth because the business approach that was done via EA was not successful at all in the long run. It proved more damage than what it did good for the community as well as the product that is based. And this is a cautionary tale. This is very much so a cautionary tale in regards to proper business techniques, proper business measures that people need to go into in regards to making a good product for their customers. If you care about the customers first and you're not trying to make a dollar off of them, your product is going to be good. If you're in art for the right reasons and you make it to express yourself and to reach out to a community, then it's going to be successful. Look at The Witcher 3. Look at Rockstar. And Rockstar is not that innocent. I mean, they have DLC and stuff that charges by the boatload, but the content they make is so good and so aspiring and so alluring that they have a fan base that will come back and spend the money if need be, because they know they're putting their money towards a better game. EA does not do that. And until EA changes that mindset, and until they change the way they think about things, and until they change the way they view the consumer and view their own products, you're going to have these issues. You're going to have companies like DICE that will not have enough time to develop a good game, that's going to be held hostage to make money off of their fans because of DLC that should already be in the game. You're going to have a community where you're going to have people that either praise and look back on this game, plus the developers, plus the company with rose-tinted glasses, and you're going to have another division of fans who actually were here from the get-go, played the beta, downloaded the beta, figured out what was wrong with this, and just oppose every single aspect that is fundamentally wrong with how EA does stuff, and how this game right here, even though good, was a missed opportunity overall. And you're going to have those types of problems. It's going to be that way for quite some time. And like I said before, and I'll say it again, look no further than the sports titles that EA does. And look at how they just churn out the same old repetitive gameplay and games every single day, day in and day out. Because EA preys upon people who pretty much, they're casual gamers. And I'm guilty of it too. We're all guilty of it. You fall into a trend, like you feel like you can't do without a certain game or title, and you just want to be a part of it. Star Wars is an easy IP to make a game about. Okay? It's easy. Like, for a game like Battlefront, like this game, just like its predecessor, was no sandbox. And the moves that were made by the people in charge of it made questionable moves and questionable decision making. Like the skins that are not in the game. Like the certain modes that are not in the game. Like, why is Poe Dameron not a actual hero? And the reason that DICE put out there is that you have Poe Dameron. He's in a ship. In a ship? He's in a ship that's in a mode that hasn't been updated since 2017. But yet you bring a BB-8. That's your hero. Now, I mean, I have nothing against BB-8, but if I have to choose between BB-8 and Poe Dameron, I'm bringing in Poe Dameron. Which, by the way, EA's and DICE's argument for that, including his community director who voiced that and said to John Boyega that he's in the ship, also has BB-8 in the ship too. So that argument is poor in choice. So I don't want to be too doom and gloom on this. I think that this was a very great experience. I do love the fact that they included my boy Anakin Skywalker in this. My second favorite character, other than, I would say, Darth Vader. I am glad that they did acknowledge Papa Palpatine and finally gave him a different skin, even though he should have had a lightsaber with the prequel era and should have had a Revenge of the Sith style skin from Revenge of the Sith as well. Missed opportunities, but that's just what happens when you make a deal with EA. It's always going to be missed opportunities. But that's the positives that can come out of this. If there is a Battlefront 3, me personally, they would have to do a whole lot to convince me to go get it. With the PlayStation 5 coming out, it's going to be a great experience with great graphics and things such as that, and 4K, and the possibilities of where that's going. It probably will be the last gaming console that I will ever get, because I've been in this for a long time. and sometimes it just comes a chance to like to hang them up. But I don't know. It's gonna be a hard sell. Any gamer that walks away from this and says, "Yeah, I truly believe in like this stuff that EA and DICE can allow, I would buy it again." I don't know about that. And who knows what will happen? Like EA will probably lose this IP. Jedi Fallen Order was pretty good, but that was because of Respawn. EA just published it. So, it's just the way that it is. Like I'm sure Disney and Lucasfilm thought that they could have made a great product with EA, but just like the NFL and just like everybody else, soon enough you realize that EA is just about the money, and they'll take the best IP and run that thing into the ground. You know, making money after money after money, but you know, what does it profit? Nothing. You'll have a disappointed fan base, and you'll have a fan base that'll sit up there and be like, well, no matter how good this game was, it'll never be as good as what could have been. Battlefront 2 honestly could have been game of the year if the proper publishing company owned the Star Wars IP. But here we are. So my final take on this era of Star Wars is that it's an era that pretty much could have been better. Good for what it did. The Clone Wars era saved this game. The era I grew up with saved this game. Your Darth Mauls, your Anakin Skywalkers, your Count Dooku's, your Obi-Wan Kenobis and stuff like that saved this game and expanded it beyond any possibilities whatsoever. So that is a plus. But at the same time, like, it's blatantly obvious that like EA and DICE, for the most part, did not plan this game out very well, and it shows the inability that EA has to where they can give life to a product that you can't milk money out of. Star Wars in its own is a name that merits profit itself. You don't have to gouge the pockets of your gaming community with that. And unfortunately, EA thought they could do with Star Wars like they do with Madden. You know, create a subpar product, hope and pray that people don't voice their concerns about it, be thankful that this is what we got, and then move on with the next project. So who knows if this is the last Battlefront that is done. Good work to salvaging this thing that was on limited breath supply as much as possible, but missed opportunities, man. Missed opportunities. You have 43 years. You have 43 years worth of content and lore in Star Wars, and this is all you got. 3 Millennium Falcons and a banning game mode. Like, no skins for Darth Vader, nothing. This should have been a fully extensive and immersive experience, and unfortunately, it ends like Battlefront ended. Yeah, it's great. You guys salvaged it, but man, it could have been a lot more. So I still plan on trying to get the skins as of now. There's supposed to be a patch coming out later on for this game to make it playable for time to come. But with Darth Maul, you got 5,000 people you got to get rid of in order to get the old Master skin. A skin which, by the way, nobody asked for. Darth Maul should have more skins than anything. Luke never got his Bespin skin. Vader never got his Rogue One skin, or New Hope. Obi-Wan never got an old Obi-Wan skin. Hopefully a company, preferably Disney, buys that IP back, takes it away from EA, and make a great game. Lucas Arts in the original OG days was shooting out games left and right. You had Rebel Assault 2, you had Star Wars Episode 1, Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, you had everything. Some of the game titles, some of them were subpar, but you know what? You had a choice. Look at these. I mean, how many Star Wars games have you had in the past 5 years? 3? 3 on major titles, on major consoles. And then you had, this app game that's a money milker that they brought out. Subpar, man. But, I just hope that people learn their lesson. Whenever you start a business, care about the people first. The money will take care of itself. As long as you have a company that wishes to prey upon people's pockets with very alluring IPs, you're going to have that issue.